The Midwest supporting, bruiser loving, positivity spreading, world's most dangerous podcast. Join former pro wrestler and promoter Dave Dynasty as he supports and promotes Midwest pro wrestling. Keep on growing with the Midwest Express. This is the Dave Dynasty Show.
And welcome to the Dave Dynasty Show. This is your host, Dave Dynasty. Thank you for joining us this week on our latest episode. However you joining us, whether it be on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, or any other podcast platforms, we appreciate you being here with us. And in whichever way you do, please go on and make sure you follow us or subscribe to us. And make sure you comment, share, like, rate, and review, all that good stuff. Help support us, help spread the word. We are bringing you every week a whole heaping pile of Midwest pro wrestling goodness absolutely free. And you can help us out by helping to spread the word and grow the movement that is the Midwest Express as we support Midwestern professional wrestling. We have a good episode here for you today. An interview with a young newcomer, a young manager named Joey Dice, working in central Indiana. We talked to him today. We have a Whatever Happened To with Caneman, Johnnie Walker. If you went to shows several years back, anywhere in Indiana, pretty much, you saw the Caneman in action. And we talked to him today, see what he's up to, and catch up with him and bring that all to you. We also have an officials decision with Referee Manbun, Sean O'Brien. And, this is I don't like to, I here and there I talk about Midwest pro wrestling news and things, and I try not to get into things that are hearsay or rumors or gossip type things, but there's a whole lot of attention on a few things right now, and let's get a couple of them that are kind of the non-controversial. Let's put it that way. The one thing, two Ohio fellas, Zachary Wentz, Desmond Xavier, they are your new Pro Wrestling Guerrilla Tag Team Champions. So awesome, so cool to see the Rascals out on the West Coast doing it in PWG. And having success in winning tag team titles. And not only there, they're doing it all over, right? They're traveling. You see Desmond Xavier on Impact. If you watch Impact, he's on there every week, all the time. Both these guys are great. I've worked with both of them. They're both great guys, amazing talents. You can see that from the moment you first see them. So it's so cool to see the big things these guys are doing out there. Congratulations to those two, the new PWG Tag Team Champions, Zachary Wentz and Desmond Xavier. Got a big show coming up in the Midwest on May 26th, and we're going to talk more about this show next week, but it is for World Classic Big Time Professional Wrestling. I know that's a mouthful, but it is the company that Bobby Fulton of the Fantastics runs, and Bobby Fulton's hanging it up. He's having his last match on May 26th in Circleville, Ohio, in a big show, and we're going to bring you all of the information. We're going to bring you all the news, all the results, pictures, whatever else have you, because Ike and I are taking a road trip on May 26th, and we will be there. We are going to be attending that show, and we will give you a full report, live feeds, live tweets, so make sure you watch for that. But we will talk about this a lot more next week, because next week we have Bobby Fulton on the show, a great interview I recorded with him just last night, as this is being recorded today. So a great episode next week coming up with that. And again, we'll talk more about that show, but I'd like to get that plug in on that show because it is a truly great show. There's a fan fest that day, a live recording of a portion of the Jim Cornette Experience podcast. Lots of great names will be there. Again, we will talk more about that next week, but mark your calendars and make sure you follow us on all of our social media links so that you can see all of our reports and live feedback from that event and from that road trip. You can find all those links at davedynasty.com. Everything's right at the top. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're everywhere. Make sure you follow all those so that you can stay abreast of all those things we do. And now, kind of a controversial topic, and I'm not really here to offer opinions because I don't know, and that's just not, I'm not that kind of guy. But there was an incident at IWA Mid-South in Memphis, Indiana, and I know, I mean, this is a controversial topic, right? Because with IWA Mid-South, people they're very polar on IW Mid-South and what they think. And the weird thing is a lot of people form their opinions and their stance just based on things they hear and stories they hear without even knowing whether there's any truth or anything to them. But there was an alleged incident. Well, there was some form of incident between Ronnie Nicole, I believe. I'm sorry, excuse me. It's Ronnie. I'm shooting a blank on her last name. And Rotten. And I don't know what the incident was, and I'm not going to repeat the stories by either of them. I'm not taking a stance on this again because, like I said, I'm not there. I didn't witness anything. I've heard stories from people that were there. I've seen lots of posts and lots of things and lots of feedback. So I have my definite opinions on them. But that's not doesn't matter, right? My opinions do not matter in this situation. But it brings me, to this point of, and my whole point bringing it up again, like I do, I don't usually talk about topics like this, and I kind of apologize for bringing it in, and I mean no disrespect to N or Ronnie at all by bringing this up. I don't want anybody to take that because it's nothing like that. My whole point in even mentioning it is because of the fallout from it for the fan side of it, because it's this weird sensation that is alive in wrestling, and it's been there for years, but it's just growing and growing and growing. Everybody in this world now has a Facebook account, and they're friends on Facebook with wrestlers and promoters and legends, and everybody's got a Twitter account, and they follow these people, and everybody's doing a podcast, right? And I know I'm doing a podcast, right? And people might be saying, well, hey, Dave, what about you? And I get that, but I try to put a different approach from what I'm talking about on all my things, all my social medias and my podcast. And what I'm getting at is this: all these people, they have all these things and all these access to the world, right? And you can literally sit in your chair or you can lay in your bed and you have access to the whole world, right? And all these people, and you can have these conversations and these interactions, and you could really put anything you want out there, whether it be your opinion or whatever else it might be. And lots of people, though, that are out there and that are doing this are just, number one, there's lots of people just trying to stir trouble and just trying to throw fuel on fires. But pretty much most of them don't deserve to have an opinion. And that's just being frank. Whatever happened in this situation in Memphis, Indiana, and other situations like it, because it's wrestling, this stuff happens. I've been there, right? I have been backstage. When these things happen, right, and they do happen because it is an emotional business and people are passionate about it. But what happens is all these people don't get an opinion on this because they're not there. They're not part of it. They're not in that locker room. They're not part of the interaction or the relationship or that show or whatever else. So they don't get an opinion on that side of the curtain. And that's where a lot of people, they have trouble drawing that line now because they see so much, and it's so easy to access these personalities and these celebrities. I'm sorry, and wrestlers and etc. And it's so easy to interact with them now. And people, they feel empowered by the fact that they can sit behind a keyboard. And I'm not one of those guys that wants to sit here and knock what people call keyboard warriors and whatever else, because I do believe people, they have a right to their opinions, and that's fine. You can put your opinions out there on things that you can make a judgmental call on. You can put your opinion on there on what the quality of the show was and what the matches were like and what you think so-and-so did as a performer and what you think so-and-so's character is like or what you think this and that. That's fine. And those opinions should be respected for you as a consumer. But when it involves someone's personal life and the business behind the curtain, if you're not there, you don't really get an opinion on it. There's no really to form it. You can sit there and say, yeah, I heard this and I think this, but the problem is everybody hears that and they take a lot of things at face value and, oh, I read it on the internet, it must be true. And that's not the case. And then again, I'm not doing this. I'm not taking sides. I'm not defending anybody. I'm not saying anything like that. Again, the incident itself is not, it's done, right? I only brought it up to lead into this argument and this discussion. And this discussion is on people, and it's not just in wrestling though, right? It's all over. People think because they can send out a tweet and they have, some followers, that suddenly they're some expert, and they're not. And it's, I don't know, man. It's this thing, and I hate, because I know a lot of this makes me sound like an old man, and I am kind of an old man, and I've been around for quite a while. And the guys that trained me in the business, the guys that broke me in, and the guys that first started working with me and that I first started with, they had that old school view, right? And they taught me, first and foremost, before anything else in wrestling, before you take a bump or before you wrestle a match or before you do anything, the first lesson one that you were taught was respect. And that's something I think that's lost. I think it's lost throughout the world, to be quite honest. The level of just common decency and respect is lost. Because the fact of the matter is this: anybody can have an opinion. And when it's something that they have a right to have an opinion on, that's fine. And everybody should respect that opinion. But everybody, including the person with the opinion, needs to understand that it's just an opinion. It's not a fact. It's not a truth. It's just someone's preference, right? Or their taste. It's like saying, I like chocolate ice cream. Bob over here likes vanilla ice cream. Neither one of us are right. Neither one of us are better. We're just different, right? We like different things, and that's fine. And we can have those opinions on things like ice cream or a wrestling show that, I can think that, this wrestling show was horrible, or I can think that wrestling show was great, and you can have different opinions, and that's fine. We're both right, because that's what I thought it was one way, you thought it was another. We're both right, because that's our personal opinions. That's what we believe. And we can have a discussion, and we can go back and forth and try to convince the other, and we can defend our side, and that's fun, right? That's great. But when you cross over into the business side, and you cross over into the personal side of wrestlers, and et cetera, unless you're personally invested, personally a part of that situation, or the locker room, or that company, or whatever it might be, you don't really get an opinion. Just because you're Facebook friends with someone, just because you're a Twitter follower of someone, or if they are a Twitter follower of you, doesn't necessarily make you friends, to be honest. So let's keep, there's got to be some boundaries there, right? This is a new age, a new world, and people always talk about kayfabe and the curtain and the magic being gone and the boundaries and whatever else. A lot of that is still there. It just has to be approached differently now, right? It's just different because of social media, because of the instant accessibility to things, and people need to be aware of that. And that's just my opinion on the matter. In summary, all I'm asking, not just in wrestling, in all of life and everything you do, just, man, be nice. Be respectful of people. Be kind. Even when it's hardest, that's when you need to do it most. And that's not coming from any religious standpoint. That's not coming from any moral standpoints. That's not coming from any political standpoints. It's just coming from being a damn human being, right? And the way we treat each other. And that's one of the things that I preach on this podcast is positivity. And some people snicker and chuckle, but you know what, man? If everybody was just a little nicer to each other, and everybody just treated everybody with a little more respect, and everybody was just a little more honest, man, a lot of things in the world would take care of themselves. But again, maybe I'm just an old man with a bad neck, living a pipe dream. So be it. I'm off my soapbox. Again, I wish the best to everybody involved in that incident. Hopefully it works itself out. And power to them all. Woo! Okay. So, like I said, I'm done preaching. Like I said, I don't get off of these tangents like that much. Maybe I will more, because I think there's some value in me expressing. And that's what this podcast is part of it, right? We do the interviews and we let guys tell their stories, and we help bring some light and preserve some legacies, and put some exposure and some eyes on some young guys, and help maybe broaden their network a little bit. But it's also a platform for me to maybe to express my stance and my opinions. Again, if you disagree with me, hey, that's cool, man. I still love you. No hard feeling. That's just, I'm just some guy from Indiana, man. Like I said, an old guy from Indiana with a bad neck, stating what he feels. Thanks for hearing me out. Thanks for joining us. Like I said, let's take a little break. Let me get a drink, maybe of the adult beverage kind. And when we come back, we will have that interview with manager Joey Dice. So stick around. You've heard him here on the Dave Dynasty Show as a guest and as host of the monthly Graham's Gallery episodes. And now you can hear his stories. You can own a copy of Confessions of a Big Time Wrestler, the audio book from Dr. Jerry Graham Jr., former multi-tag team champion in WWA and owner of Bruiser Bedlam. You can hear all of his encounters with the various wrestlers, places, and promotions he's worked as he tells about his colorful, long, and illustrious career. You can have your own copy for only $25, and that includes shipping and handling. It's very simple. Go on Facebook, look up Jerry Jaffe, Jaffe, send him a private message, and make arrangements to purchase a copy of Confessions of a Big Time Wrestler now. You will not regret this purchase.
And welcome back to the Dave Dynasty Show. I'm your co-host, Ike Isaacs, and today I am joined with a very unique guest, someone who I think you're going to like. We have Joey Dice. How are we doing today, my man?
Pretty good, sir. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. Like I said,
Great.
I'm living the dream. Can't complain. It's
Not at all.
Yeah, right. It's 10:30 at night. I'm alive. I'm breathing. And I'm breathing wrestling. So let's do this. First question, as always, my man. Where are you from?
I am from Indianapolis, Indiana. Born and raised.
Born and raised. Wonderful Indianapolis. I too am from Indiana. I'm from Columbus, so I'm about 45 minutes south of you.
Yeah.
But what was it like growing up in Indianapolis? What's that like?
It's unique, nonetheless. Like, you have your good parts of Indianapolis, and you have your, not so good parts. So it's a 50-50 experience, nonetheless.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, you guys got quite a bit to do up there. I feel like you have a lot to entertain yourself with. Being from a small town, we have like a movie theater, so.
Yeah, we have a couple of those.
Right. I say you got like 8 of them just like within a square mile. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. No, about 2.
Right.
Actually.
Right on.
Yeah.
So then, growing up in Indianapolis, you're kind of in a central area. A lot goes on there. A lot of wrestling goes on there, in fact. But tell us about your first memories of wrestling, like as a fan. I don't know if you watched wrestling growing up.
Yeah, so it dates back to like 2nd grade, I would say. During recess, my friend Nathan brought in a Rey Mysterio action figure, and I had no idea who the dude was, no idea about professional wrestling or nothing. And, I was like, hey, what is this? And he was like, it's Rey Mysterio. I didn't know who it was, so he told me. Then about a week later, as every kid does, go through channels when nothing else to do. Then I go to this thing called WWE, and I was really intrigued. Then the next match had Rey Mysterio in it. And I was like, hey, that dude looks familiar. So then from then on, I just started watching. Then I went to a couple WWE live events. Then in about 5 years after that, I found out about this little thing called independent wrestling. And it just went on from there, honestly.
Absolutely. So tell us, obviously we all have the childhood favorites of wrestling, but who were some of your first favorites in wrestling, I guess you could say?
Yeah, for sure Rey Mysterio.
Of course.
Jeff Hardy. And oddly enough, Abyss.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was gonna say when I was younger, I used to I was around right when they opened up TNA Impact way back when, and TNA Impact always blew my mind because it was so different than the WWE. It was such a different product at the time, and a lot of the people who were there, Abyss, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, they were all just so fantastic in my eyes. But
for sure.
So then, obviously, wrestling got a hold of you. You got the fever. And the only thing that's going to be able to cure it is getting
More
a part
cowbell?
of it. Yeah, more cowbell. No, I was hoping you get the reference, but no, yeah. But the only thing that could cure it was being a part of it. So when was it that you knew that this was something you wanted to be more than just a fan for?
It was actually the first indie show I ever been to. When I decided that's what I honestly want to do with my life, I actually have the flyer in my room still to this day pinned on my wall. It's for this company called World's Finest Wrestling. They had one show, and it had people like Dale Patricks, Rob Kincaid, Anthony Totelli, Cliff Compton of ROH, Jason Saint, Shane Mercer, like people like that. It took place in 2015. So for about 3 years now, I've been,
No, absolutely. And those are some names that I recognize. We talked to a couple of them before. Some really great people, some really good talent.
Sure.
So definitely that indie show that hooked you is probably, I'd imagine, a pretty good one.
Yeah, it was.
Absolutely. So then, obviously, as if you don't know, our friend here, he is a manager. So how did you get into managing? How was it that you kind of edged your way in?
Funny story. So, my cousin Corey Storm. Okay, he was like, "Hey Joe, what are you doing today?" I was like, "I'm going to work." So I got off work. Then me, him, his fiance, and his fiance's mother, we went to a WCWO show in Greensburg, which he was working. And he knew I wanted to be a part of the business for, at that point, about a year and a half, 2 years going on. So he brought me backstage and introduced me to Don Basher, which runs every show in Greensburg, and runs half, him and JKO, his son, they half run it each in Indy, but he has almost full control of the Greensburg shows. So we got to talking at the Greensburg show. Next thing I know, I'm walking out with Corey in a match against TJ Kemp. It was just like the childhood dream. I got stage fright so bad. Well, I just kept on doing it. Now it's a weekly thing for me.
Absolutely. It's always probably a little scary at first, but you definitely
For sure.
you get in there eventually. So, tell us about your training, because obviously on the show we hear a lot about wrestlers getting trained. Run the ropes, do that. But obviously being a manager is more of a vocal, more of a charismatic show. So you have a little more of a character, I feel. So what was it like getting trained to do this, or getting yourself in a mindset to do this?
So I'm going to keep it honest with you. I never got trained to be a manager. It was just on a whim. Literally brought me backstage, and he's like, "You're walking out to me tonight." That's literally what happened. So I did not have no experience, no exposure, no nothing. So how I got myself ready, honestly, was just thinking this is it, how I want it so bad. Now I actually get the chance. That's honestly just how I got myself ready. It's thinking how bad I wanted to do it, and I just pissed it all away. So that was the mindset I was in that night, and it just took on from there.
No, absolutely. So I mean, that's pretty unique. That's not something you hear all the time. So I mean, you basically were just like, okay, screw it, jump head first in, let's do this. And
yes,
and obviously it's been fruitful. You've been around for obviously you've been doing this for a minute here. You've been kind of getting some more work under your belt. But a very key important part about not only being a manager but also a wrestler is your gimmick and your name. So how did you come up with the name Joey Dice? How did that come about?
Okay, so it was in the back of Greensburg, in the gymnasium, in the locker room area. So me, Corey Storm, and TJ Kemp were going over our match, and it was about time to go. Then TJ Kemp was like, "Hey kid, what's your name going to be tonight?" And, I was just in the moment, but I was clueless. I had no name picked out, no nothing. So then I'm going through Corey's bag to get his roast tape for him, and I see too big a pair of foam dice. And it just, because people call me Joey sometimes, then the dice, so it was just 2 and 2 together real quick, because I only had like 2 minutes to think of a name, so it was just very quick, and it just stuck since.
Absolutely. And then tell us about what your gimmick is. What is the character that you're trying to portray when you come out to the ring as Joey Dice?
So the gimmick or character per se I'm trying to portray is like a snobby, rich, overprivileged kid.
Okay.
Like country club living type deal.
Okay.
Like I'm better than you because I have money and you don't type deal.
I got you.
So I'm in.
So that's kind of how I envisioned it. So I was like, I'm assuming it's got something to do with money.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's a very good gimmick, and I feel like it's a very flexible gimmick. So I mean, you can kind of morph that into a lot. I feel like you can be both a good guy and a bad guy with that.
Yeah, I've actually worked babyface with it about 3 times, and I got over pretty well with it. So yeah.
See, that's what's important: flexibility. That's how you get money. No, but
go
ahead.
No, you can go.
I was gonna say, I mean, and that's another thing is, in independent wrestling, it's very important is being that flexible. But
for sure,
with independent wrestling right now, it's incredibly hot. I mean, you're doing this managing thing, so I mean,
the hottest.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is probably one of the peak points in history. I feel like for independent wrestling, since it's been considered independent wrestling. So I mean, since you're a part of it too, I mean, you have a unique perspective, especially as a manager. You kind of see the inner workings, and you get to see not just what happens in the ring, but you see what happens in the back, and you see all of that. So, what, in your opinion, is the best thing and the worst thing about being in independent wrestling?
The best thing and worst thing is probably the traveling, honestly, because you have your good parts and you have your bad parts about it. The good part is that you get to travel and experience new experiences, new venues, new crowds, new promoters, new everything. But the bad part is just like getting tired of the road, getting tired of leaving, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. You get worn out from having to travel all the time, and that's something I hear a lot. Obviously with independent wrestling, it's all travel.
Yeah.
And I imagine driving from Indy all the way to Greensburg is a hell of a travel.
Yeah. And considering after we put up the ring, after going out to eat with the guys, it's about sometimes pushing 12:30. Like when we're on the road, like it's about 12:30 when we leave officially.
Yeah. So
yeah, getting home around 1:30 too sometimes. It's kind of harsh, but I mean, it's just for the wrestling. So
I was gonna say, I mean, if you're gonna be a baller, you gotta play the game, right?
Sure. Yes.
But you primarily though, with what you work, from what I've seen, you work a lot for WCWO, of course, in Indianapolis. But do you work anywhere else other than WCWO, or are there any other places that you frequent?
I've done their Greensburg shows and Bobo Grizzle Jr., his company called, I think it's MICW.
Okay.
New Breed. I think it's MICW New Breed. I've done a show or two for him. Then Eric Draven's promotion, AWA Supreme, down in Madison, Indiana. I've also done a couple shows for him as well. So I'm kind of still at the start of my career, so I really haven't branched out to a lot of places, but I'm still trying to get my name out there as well as I can.
Absolutely. And obviously, you're just getting your feet wet right now, but I mean, you're growing very quickly, so I definitely imagine we'll be seeing that, surge out into other places very soon.
I hope.
Absolutely. But additionally, WCWO has definitely had a huge resurgence lately. I feel like I'm
For
hearing,
sure.
yeah, I feel like I'm hearing a lot about them, and I
How
gotta
hot
go,
it's ever been.
right? And I need to go see it sometime. I've never been to a WCWO show
Yeah.
personally. I've obviously seen some like tapings and stuff, but what is it like being a part of something like that? What is it like being a part of the rebirth of a promotion like that?
Amazing. It's absolutely amazing that I can say that I was there for the rebirth of it. I was there for the growth, everything. To say that I was a part of it is just absolutely like amazing.
Absolutely. And definitely we're gonna see more growth, more of a rebirth here, I'm sure.
Yeah,
And
sure.
and definitely hopefully see you around a little bit there. But so
Yeah.
we talked a lot about who Joey Dice is in the ring, who Joey Dice is as the manager. But tell us what you're like away from the ring. What are your hobbies? What do you do in the real world, but outside of wrestling?
Okay. So believe it or not, I'm a cosmetology student outside of wrestling. That's what I'm doing right now.
Very, very cool. So then, are you doing this like general cosmetology? Or are you doing it like in the hopes of like doing like makeup for like movies or film, or just in general?
So my goal is, so I've always had a passion for like being a barber.
Okay.
So what I want to do is, so I'm still in high school, but my high school does like a co-op program.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So it's half the day in school, then half the day doing, the co-op classes. So the one I do is cosmetology in hopes of when I graduate, I'll have the cosmetology license. So then I go to barber school and I'll have both. So it just looks better, my resumes and whatnot.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Damn, I wish my school had something like that.
Yeah.
Something cool like that. I mean, my high school is just, all right, guys, we're going to learn. And I'm just like, well, I'd much rather be doing something else. But but that's very cool. It's really awesome. So then obviously being a barber, that's actually really cool. I could never do that. I have such, I don't have steady enough hands to cut somebody's hair. I'd be like, all right, there goes a part of your ear.
Yeah.
but besides that, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do in your free time?
Just think of ideas for my character, discuss getting logos made, and I also train to wrestle too, not just managing. I'm actually training to wrestle. So that's what I got going for me right now.
So wow, yeah, you've got a lot going on. You're still in high school.
Yeah.
You're doing the cosmetology. You're training to be a wrestler, and you're doing more
I'm
stuff.
training 2 days out the week too.
So I mean, you've got a action-packed schedule like all the time then.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Keeping busy, keeping up, and continuing to better yourself, getting yourself more into the business is never a bad thing. Because if you can wrestle and manage, I mean, you've pretty much got a lifetime job ahead of you because there's always a position for both of those.
Yes.
So, we've kind of talked about, what you are inside the ring, what you're like outside the ring. But what are some of your goals for 2018? I mean, like you said, you're training to be a wrestler. You're trying to better your character for Joey Dice. But what else are you trying to do for 2018 to make it a really, really good year?
So, let's see. That's honestly, I really haven't had much thought into it. I would love to have my first match within July. Like, July till, like, this is when we're recording this, till July, so that gives me a 2-month window. I'd like to have my match by then. Yeah, I don't even care, just a little squash, just to say that I've had a match. Then, let's see, manage for IWA Mid-South. Probably. Chikara, CZW, maybe. It's a long shot, but,
No, yeah, absolutely. And, IW Mid-South, that's a fantastic promotion. It would be really cool to see you get up in there and do all of that. That'd be really awesome. So, I mean, I'm rooting for you there. I love IW Mid-South.
Yeah, it's great.
So that's perfect, though. I mean, those are really good attainable goals. I mean, definitely the sky's the limit. I mean, you should always shoot higher than that. I mean,
Yeah.
But definitely, I think you've got all these goals set up. So, along with that, along with your goals, I guess you could say, are there any people that you'd like to work with, whether that be in a wrestling bout or even just manage?
Yeah, I love to work with Corey Storm. It's just that bond that we have. It's great. I managed him a handful of times, and whenever I wrestle, I love to have my first match against him. Honestly, like
Absolutely.
if I could wrestle anyone first time, that would who it would be.
No, absolutely. Very, very awesome. So, I mean, we've gotten to learn a lot about you. You have a very unique character. And there's a lot of unique things about you, obviously. I mean, it was like surprise after another there, which is fantastic. But where can people follow you? Do you have any social media where people can kind of keep up with you and, see where your career goes, maybe keep tabs on what you're doing?
So my Facebook page is at Joe Belt. I really don't have a gimmick page yet, but I'm planning on having one soon. Then my Instagram is Joe_Belt_317.
Very cool. And then do you have like Twitter or anything? I know some people have.
No. I mean, I do, but I barely use it. And I honestly don't even remember the username for it right now.
Right. I shouldn't say that I'm the same way. I have obviously my Twitter, at Pint Size Beast. Go follow me on there. But it's
right.
but that was just a little shout out for everybody listening. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I hardly ever tweet. It's horrible, but yeah, I mean Twitter's fun, but it's I don't know, man. I can't get in the groove with that. I'm more of a Facebook guy myself.
Yeah. Facebook, you can just find anything about anything on Facebook.
And you're not limited by characters. I don't even know how many characters you can write with on Twitter, but it's not enough.
Like 1,000 or something? I'm not sure.
Well, all I know is this. You guys want to keep an eye on Joey Dice. I mean, here's the deal. He like he said, he's just getting himself into the business, but he's already doing a lot of work. So you guys you don't want to like miss out on this. So go follow him on Facebook. Go look at his Instagram. Keep up with this because, like he said, one day you're going to see him in the ring. You're going to see him up against some good guys. Hopefully one day we get to see the Joey Dice and Corey Storm match, which I would love.
Yes.
1, 2, 3. It's my man bun.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to another edition of Official's Decision with Referee Manbun. I am Referee Manbun, also known as Referee Sean O'Brien. Yours truly officiated at 3 really big, huge events this weekend, and I had a blast in doing so. On Thursday, the 19th of April, IWA Mid-South held their Miss Independent tournament to crown a new IWA Women's World Champion. This tournament was stacked with some of the most talented female wrestlers across the country, real talk. In the end, Shotzi Blackheart defeated Kikyo to be crowned your newest female IWA champion in almost 10 years. It was a really, really special moment. Shout out to Shotzi Blackheart. However, now the test begins to see how long she can keep her title. On Friday, April the 20th, Revolution Championship Wrestling held their second anniversary show, which I was blessed to be a part of, and they loaded the card in celebration. Your referees for the evening were myself and my big brother Max Recon. Shout out to Max Recon. Some of the big names that appeared on this show include Congo Kong, Abyss, Crazy Steve, Sugar Dunkerton, Jake and Dave Christ from OVE, Sammy Callahan, which, speaking of Sammy Callahan, look here, buddy. Just because, accidents have happened here recently and you've got a little bit of an attitude problem does not mean that you need to take it out on the officials that are officiating your match and are trying to protect you and your opponent.
Sami Callihan got a little pushy with me. He put his hands on me a couple times, and then at the end of the match, even though he won, he still decided to kick me in the chest. It is what it is, but I definitely had to have a talk with RCW management to let them know that is not behavior becoming of a professional wrestler. So hopefully they get that squared away, because Sami Callihan does not need to be putting his hand on officials. However, I am, not the person to say something. So, however, it was a great experience. I cannot wait to come back to Revolution Championship Wrestling, and definitely find a way to check out that show if you can. Some of the matches that were on that card were really fun. One of the matches that I got to referee was Sugar Dunkerton against Sami Callihan, and that's the particular match where Sami had a thumb up his butt or something. On Saturday, I attended the Heroes and Legends wrestling show in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I got the opportunity to conversate with such legends of the business like Mean Gene Okerlund, Tatanka, Cowboy Bob Orton, nationally known referee Jeff Bundy, who works for WWN and other companies. Coco Beware was also there. There were so many names from also Jimmy Jacobs, and OVE was there as well. Congo Kong, of course, who is the Heroes and Legends champion. It was an awesome experience. Got to talk to some really, really well-known people in the industry who have a lot of knowledge. And then afterwards, we got to witness a heck of a show, which included an extremely entertaining match between Jimmy Jacobs and Sugar Dunkerton, which I definitely recommend checking out. And after this wild weekend, we hit the road, headed back, and I hit my bed very hard until, of course, I had to be back up on Sunday to work with the hardworking kids training over at Grindhouse Professional Wrestling Academy. If you have never heard of Grindhouse, look those guys up. Too Tough Tony and Rudy Switchblade have a great school that they run in the Jeffersonville area. If you want to get in the pro wrestling industry, if you want to get in the business, it's one of the best places that I can recommend. And I'm one of the referees that work there every Sunday and work with the kids. And so definitely check out Grindhouse Pro Wrestling on Facebook. Coming up, catch myself and the IWA Mid-South roster on Powerbomb.tv on Friday, April 27th. If you haven't signed up for Powerbomb, make sure you do so now and use code IWAMS for your first 20 days for free, and that includes the show on the 27th. You can catch the newly crowned tag team champions, the Gymnasty Boys, Timmy Lou and White Mike, as well as Shane Strickland and Myron Reed. The card is stacked. It's going to be a really great show. So make sure that you tune into Powerbomb.tv and check out IWA Mid-South on the 27th, and you can see my pretty face. Also, don't forget, please send in any questions or topics about officiating or pro wrestling rules to my mailbag, please. You can send them to me on any of my social media platforms or to Dave Dynasty, and he'll get them right over to me so we can get them onto my segment and we can talk about it, and we can discuss it. I will do research with the WWE rulebook because, of course, that's the law of the land, as well as research on other like the NWA rulebook from 1970. I do have that as well in my archive, as well as other tools that we can debunk some of the issues that some of you might have with some of the rules or just officiating in general. So please make sure you send those over to myself or Dave Dynasty, and we will discuss them on the show. Before I finish, hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, that it's at official SPO502. I'm also on Facebook. Facebook is Sean Patrick O'Brien. It's SEAN. It's the Irish way. So hit me up on either platforms. Got to let you know that if you're going to hit me up in the mailbag. As always, much appreciation to Dave Dynasty. Thank you very much for the platform. And thank you guys very much for listening. I hope to see you guys at the show.
And we're back with Whatever Happened To, the segment where we catch up on some often overlooked names from Midwest Wrestling's past. I am Mike Isaacs, and today we're chatting with the Caneman, Johnnie Walker. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Living the dream. Can't complain. Well, let's go ahead and jump right into it. First question we always like to ask to kind of get the ball rolling is, how did you get started in professional wrestling?
Well, something that, I grew up like so many other people watching it at my age, and my family and I were traveling, settled in Indianapolis area, and come to find out that the kid's babysitter, her husband, was in the business, and so talking with him and ended up being involved in getting trained by him and his partner at the time.
Well, absolutely. So it's just kind of like you grew up with wrestling, but then it was kind of oh, hey, by the way, I'm a wrestler. Let's get trained.
Yeah, and in fact, like I say, grew up watching the old Dick the Bruiser era and all that. And, I always had it in the back of my mind. I did school and high school wrestling, so, all that stuff was always kind of, talked about, and, in the locker room and stuff, people saying, hey, let's go become professional wrestlers and, make it big time.
Absolutely. So then, we kind of, like you said, you grew up with wrestling. I feel like a lot of people who become wrestlers at some point in time, they had some kind of a past with professional wrestling. But when you started your actual training to become like a professional wrestler, what was that training like?
Well, to be quite honest, it wasn't like anything that I thought it was going to be. It was, a lot harder than what I really thought it was going to be at first. And, a lot of sweat and a lot of tears with it, a lot of long days, just being basically kind of abused all day long is what I referred to later as, being a piece of meat to some people, and they were trying to find out, does this guy really have what it takes to, stick with the grind and the pain and real suffering that comes with it.
So they had to weed out the weak, and then who was left over, got the glory, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, it was, everybody, wants to do it, but not everybody has the ability and capabilities of, sticking with it and, going anywhere with it.
No, absolutely. That's definitely true. People start, but not a lot of people finish. That's absolutely
correct.
True. So, obviously your training was pretty grueling, but ultimately, it turned you into a professional wrestler, or the groundwork for a professional wrestler. And of course, over time, a lot of people, they do their work, they get out there, they have some matches, and they get, a little better every day. But where all did you work, and who all did you work for?
Well, fortunately, when I first started out, I got to work for Dick the Bruiser organization, which was, kind of like one of those childhood dreams when you grow up watching him and the people that, worked with him, and then get a chance to actually work for his promotion. So I basically worked, here in the Midwest, did some shows up in Canada for Bruiser's organization, and the Toledo area, because that's where, in the early 80s, where he was basically working out of a lot.
No, absolutely. So you got to go around a little bit, and definitely working with the Bruiser era of wrestling must have been amazing. What were some of your more fond memories of that wrestling, and what were some of your favorite matches?
A lot of the fond memory. I mean, it was, like I say, getting to work with his organization. Got to do several matches. Bobby Colt, which is another guy that I grew up watching, and getting to work with him actually in matches was kind of like one of those honor things that you got to work with guys you grew up kind of idolizing and stuff.
No, absolutely. And that's what I hear a lot from people, because I feel like actually I've talked to a lot of people who kind of grew up in like that sweet spot where they caught the beginnings and such of some of these bigger names, and then they got into wrestling themselves and were able to still wrestle those guys, which is always incredible to hear. So you got to work with some pretty big names. You said Bobby Colt. I've actually had the pleasure of speaking with him. He's an amazing guy. What are some other things that you may miss about wrestling? Because obviously, working in that era was probably a lot of fun, but what are some of the things you miss about wrestling?
Well, I really miss seeing the old school type wrestling. I mean, today, you watch the WWE and, the TNA and other stuff that's on TV. And I mean, the unrealistic of their punches. I mean, they slapping their legs, when they throw a punch. When I started and all that, I mean, you hit somebody, you hit them. Okay. And, a lot of people didn't like it, but I mean, it really sold a lot better to me than watching somebody throw a punch and slapping his chest or slapping his leg at the same, just to make a popping sound. I mean, a lot of people did refer to me as being a stiff wrestler, but that was the era I grew up in. I mean, you learn to take and give a punch.
No, absolutely.
So, and later in career, guys didn't like it. They didn't want to work with you because, like I say, they said all that. But when I started out, I paid my dues. For the first 2 or 3 years, I counted so many times. I'd taken the pin and all that just to pay my dues. Get my feet wet and learn the ropes. People later on, they want to do is come in and be, the hero or the champion without, paying any dues at all.
No, absolutely. I think that's actually a big, drastic, I guess you could say, difference between, the Bruiser era compared to the modern era. I call it the Bruiser era, but that's just because we're Midwest folk. But
Yeah.
but it's true. There was a lot of things that were different back then. Like you said, you were trained to throw a punch and take a punch. You also were trained about kayfabe and the secrecy of kayfabe. Nowadays, that's just all out there. But I guess you've kind of already answered it, but maybe elaborate more. Would you say that you dislike modern wrestling, or would you just say that you wish it was better or more to your taste?
I wished it was better, more along the realistic approach. Where in the big organization, I know they're making thousands and millions of dollars, and they save their bodies and all that. I mean, people are paying good money to go out and see, a real match. People actually, hitting each other. I'm not saying, intentionally hurt and all that, even though that did happen back in the day. But it just, to me, was it's a more realistic era that has gone, away, that I would like to see a lot of these more independent promotions go back to the old school type.
No, absolutely. And yeah, I hear that a lot. It's like, because a lot of people are like, you can only jump off a ladder so many times before you're just like, okay, this is overboard. And it's definitely true. You compare what they do today and back then. It's like it's two different worlds. So kind of along the lines of what we're talking about, I guess with modern wrestling and with everything it is, do you keep up with modern watching wrestling still, or are you kind of just like, I'm out. This is not my taste, not my forte?
I haven't been to an independent show in probably at least 6-8 years. I still talk to a lot of the guys that I used to work with, about, the goings on and all that. I just, moved on with my life. I basically had to get out of it, because I ended up breaking my neck wrestling. And that was due to taking so many, chair shots to the head. It collapsed my, vertebrae in my neck. And the doctors told me, you got two choices. You can keep doing what you're doing and possibility of becoming paralyzed, or get out. So, I had to do what I had to do, and, I didn't want to end up being paralyzed, and, I had other things that I wanted to do. I mean, I miss it. I'm not, I'm not going to tell you I don't.
Yeah.
I would love the possibility of going back at some point to, help out an organization, independent group with, my experiences and all that. But, I've never really searched for it. So, but if the opportunity came, I would probably get back, because, there's still that thing in the back, says, go back, you'll be all right now, but who knows?
No, absolutely. You always have a spark. You always have that small passion for what you used to do, and that'll probably never go away.
No, probably not.
So obviously, when you step out of the ring and you come back to, I guess you could say, a normal life, you got to kind of step into another position. So what did you do after you stepped out of the ring, hung up gloves per se, and what are you up to currently?
Well, I just stayed working in a full-time job until basically 2011, and had a series of heart attacks, and end up having bypass surgery, and had to quit working. So I basically have been, a man that's permanently on vacation.
Not a problem. Well, what hobbies have you taken up in that time? Because I would imagine sitting around for so long, you probably get a little bored.
Yeah, I mean, especially being here in the Midwest, when you never know when it's going to be springtime.
Right.
But no, I do a lot of motorcycle trips all over the Midwest. I went out to California last June and spent a month on the road on my motorcycle. And other than that, I mean, I do a lot of golf when I can. Do a lot of volunteer work at for veterans, different veterans homes and stuff. So I mean, I do more now that I'm not working than I did when I ever did anything.
No, absolutely. When you find more time on your hands, you suddenly can do more. I found that to be the truth.
Yeah.
So definitely, I mean, at least you've been keeping yourself busy. But obviously, when you step away from wrestling, you get back to everything else. That regular 8 to 5 But
yeah, I mean, when I was, when I was in the business and working, and it was like, how am I doing all this? How am I, staying in shape and training and traveling and all that, plus holding down it's like, don't know how you do it, but, I love to do it. I did it for a little over 18 years. Like I said, watching it.
yeah,
I always, had the dream of, wanting to get in the ring, and got the opportunity. And, I said to myself, well, if I only do it one time, I have fulfilled a dream. And, over 18 years later, I finally completed the dream.
absolutely. I guess one of the things I have for you, we always like to ask this because, you definitely, when you're in the ring, you play character. Because obviously most of the time there's an in ring you, and then there's an out of ring you. So when people ask us, oh hey, I would love to know this about this person or this about this person, we always ask, what's one thing most fans don't know about you, that you would want to tell them about you?
Well, towards the latter part of my career, most people didn't know that, I had become a very devout Christian man, and raised my family with Christian values and all that. All they saw was there at the end. When I started out, I was, a baby face and did nothing wrong and all that. And then, I did a career change and turned on a good friend of mine, Calypso Jim. And, people just couldn't believe that, I attacked and changed and all that. So all they knew for the rest of my career, hey, I did what I had to do to win at cost. Behind the scenes, I was a very humble Christian man.
No, absolutely. And that's oftentimes something I've noticed, is that, very drastic character differences, and it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But
yes, it is.
well, that's awesome though. That's exciting. You feel, like you said, you fulfilled one dream, you stepped into another part of your life, and that's oftentimes what you got to do. There's chapters, and you close one out and open another. Before we move on to the last part here, I want to thank you very much for taking the time today to come on here and talk to me. It's always a pleasure and honor to get to hear some of the stories people have to tell. But one last thing for you, we live in a wonderful technological age. Do you have media that fans can follow you at, or that fans, can catch up with you?
Well, I am on Facebook, but I don't do a whole lot of posting of. If you look me up on there, it has my name, and then has my Johnnie Walker in the middle of it. Some people know me that way, some people don't. That's really about it. It's more, I use more of keeping tabs on, people that I haven't seen or talked to in a long time. But other than that, I really don't do a whole lot of social media stuff.
I don't blame you. I do social media because I do the Dave Dynasty Show, but social media sometimes is such work.
Yeah, it's. I read something today that back in the day, girls always kept a diary and got mad if you read it, and nowadays they put everything out on social media, and they get mad if you don't read it. So, it really doesn't, make any sense. There's so much dirty laundry that, people want to put out there. It's just like, hey, I just want, hear about good things and all that. I don't care who's hating on who or anything like that. It's not, to me, it's not what it's about. It's just, it's kind of like an information highway and not a information, let's, trash and put down somebody. I mean, I know there's a work trash and all that, but, you know, like in the wrestling business, but, you know, I can see through a lot of that. And, you know, like I say, when it came out, you know, all the kayfabe era, you know, there was, obviously it was like a magician never told you how he pulled the rabbit out of the hat. And nowadays in the wrestling, you know, circle, you know, everybody is out open with everybody else. And, you know, it's like, you know, it's not even really a work anymore.
It's really not.
And we're back on the Dave Dynasty Show. I am your host, Dave Dynasty. Thank you to Joey Dice for coming on today. Thank you to Caneman Johnnie Walker for letting us talk to him and catch up with him. Thank you to Referee Manbun Sean O'Brien, as every week he provides the official decision and the viewpoint from behind the stripes, so to speak. And thanks for being a part. Good luck to Mance Warner out there doing his thing. Still very much part of the Dave Dynasty Show family. Just, you may not see him every week because, man, Mance is blowing up. Just when you thought he couldn't get any bigger, he continues to get bigger. Working all over the country, taking bookings left and right. You will hear from Mance in the future. Until then, follow him on Twitter and Facebook. Keep up on everything he's doing. The guy's going to be huge. Old Mance is he's the man. Like I said, next week we got a great show. The fantastic Bobby Fulton, one half of the Fantastics, is on. Talks to us about his career, about growing up in the Midwest, breaking into the business in the Midwest, and, of course, talks about that big show on May 26th in Circleville, Ohio. More details on that next week. We have a next week of Whatever Happened To with Phoenix. This guy's great. Whatever Happened To, it's very long because Phoenix had a lot of great stories to tell, and we catch up with him next week on the show. Coming up soon, shortly after, probably the week after, we will have the next installment of Graham's Gallery, and that is not just an empty promise. It is recorded. It is in the bag. We have to edit and we'll put it out when it's time, right? Once a week. Gotta be patient. But we did talk to Dr. Jerry Graham Jr. and recorded with him as he talks about his longtime friend, tag team partner, and just great wrestler, great talent. He talks about the great Wojo, answers listener questions on Wojo, and hear all about him. And if you don't know who Great Wojo is, I haven't done my job, have I? So if you don't know who he is, look him up and tune in 2 weeks for that episode of Graham's Gallery. We have lots of other great stuff coming up in the future. Still working on more of the History of WWA episodes. Those will be coming. Still working on the AWA specific episodes. Those are still coming. I've got lots of great people to talk to about those shows. Trying to track down some great guests for those. Make sure everything's in line for those to be high quality and what you expect from us. Because that's what we do, right? Every week we bring you, this podcast full of Midwest pro wrestling greatness. You guys sit here and listen to me ramble, and you hear me stammer sometimes and do my thing, and but you get to hear these great interviews with legends, with former wrestlers and stars, with up and comers, with the bar setting talent of today in the Midwest. And plus you get the Whatever Happened To, you get the Warner's wisdoms, you get the officials' decisions, you get we had the quest for Steiner. I know we didn't have any audio this week. Don't worry, we're still on this quest. We're kind of at a stall on it, but the door is pulled to, but I do have at least part of one foot in that door. I have a connection that I'm hoping is going to lead to something good. I am not giving up hope for my Scott Steiner interview, especially in light. Did you guys see Scott Steiner on Impact? I didn't watch the Impact pay-per-view. I don't watch Impact, really. I watch bits and pieces to see some guys from the Midwest, like the aforementioned Desmond Xavier, the Chris brothers, things like that. I watched some of those clips and some of those matches online. But Scott Steiner, one half of the Impact Tag Team Champions with Eli Drake. And all I got to say is Scott Steiner, at his age, went into this match and delivered a top rope Frankensteiner it was unbelievable. I shared the clip on Facebook and on Twitter. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's pretty cool. But again, the quest for the interview with Scott Steiner is still on. I'm still fighting the good fight. So whatever you do, send good vibes my way on this because, man, I want to make it happen. Have a couple other really big interviews that I'm going to line up and get done here in the next week and a half with a couple. These are a couple of bucket list guys for me. Guys that when I started this podcast, I had a list of names that I said before I'm done with this or in the course of this or whatever it might be, I want to make sure that I interview these guys. I've knocked some of those off, right? We've had some great guests and hit some of those guests off that list. But I got two more that were high up on that list that I will be talking to here in the next week and a half. Very excited about that. So watch for those episodes. I'm not going to say anything until those are in the bag. I'm kind of superstitious about that. I don't like to say anything before the interview's solidified. So stick around with us. And if you like what you hear, remember, we do this for free. And it does take a lot of work, right? It's not just the recording that we do, but there's the time, setting up the interviews, recording the interviews, getting with these guys to send in their clips, and then there's all the editing and putting it together and the uploading and the updating of the website. It does take a lot of time, and I'm not complaining, don't get me wrong, but we do it for free, and if you like what you hear, then make sure you make a nice donation to us, right? You can make a monthly ongoing donation by going to www.patreon.com/TheDaveDynasty. We would appreciate your support there. Or you can just make a one-time donation by visiting paypal.me/TheDaveDynasty. We do appreciate that. It helps when some of the things happen where we have to replace mics, we have to replace headsets, we have to replace laptops, mixing boards, etc., etc. But that's how we keep it free, right? That's how we keep control of our ads a little bit. We only put in what we like, what we support, and that's how we do it. You can also support us by going to DaveDynasty.com, clicking on the Pro Wrestling Tees link, buying yourself a shirt. We have a few up there. There are some new designs on the way. Those are in the works, so watch for those. And then you can also, if you're going to go to highspots.com for anything wrestling related, or go to amazon.com for pretty much anything in the world, if you're going to do shopping on those two sites, go to davedynasty.com first, click on those affiliate links. It'll take you to amazon.com. It'll take you to highspots.com, and you can do your shopping. There's no additional charge to you, but whatever you order, we get a little kickback on that just for being your affiliate, just for pushing you their way. So again, no additional charge to you. All it takes is really simple. Go to davedynasty.com, click on the links, do your thing. It helps out the show, and we appreciate you being here. We appreciate your support. We appreciate your help, and we could not do what we do without you, and we do it for you, and we do it for the love of this business, especially Midwest Pro Wrestling. We love it. We are the Midwest Express. And until next week with that great interview with Bobby Fulton, I am Dave Dynasty. This is the Dave Dynasty Show. Thank you, Ike Isaacs, for everything you do. And again, watch for upcoming information on our road trip to Circleville, Ohio. We'll talk more about that next week. And until then, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.